Yeah, and on Can Do FM this week, I'm absolutely delighted that we've got back the Chief Executive Officer of the Rugby Football League, Ralph Rimmer. How are you doing, Ralph?
I'm pretty good, thanks. As you say, you've caught me in transit, but yeah, I'm pleased to be on.
Yeah, thanks very much for giving up your precious time, Ralph, and coming to answer some questions about the status of the game of Rugby League. So first question, Ralph, is COVID. It's been with us now for 20 months. What has the major impact been on the Rugby Football League and the sport in general?
Well, undoubtedly, it has distorted some of the procedures that we're used to using on a regular basis. We've had to introduce many protocols in order that the integrity of the fixture list be protected as best they could, and also the welfare of the players be protected. So it's made the task of putting Rugby League on a hell of a lot more onerous for clubs as well, and we've had to kind of police that. So in operational terms, week on, week out, we've had to make very kind of difficult decisions often in order that we managed to find the climaxes to each of the seasons and each of the competitions. Really, really stressful for everybody involved, but well done all the clubs for everything they've thrown in.
Has there been a big financial impact, Ralph, on clubs and yourselves?
Yes, it's hit in several ways. Clearly, earlier on in the season, lots of the attendances were restricted, and that included our own event attendances, such as the Challenge Cup final. I think also, well, and I think the clubs would profess to this, and we've seen it in other sports, there has been a delay in the return for crowds, even though some of the restrictions were picked up later on in the year. Nevertheless, I think it's taken a little bit of time before people get used to coming back to events as well. So that's been felt amongst clubs. I know it has, and I know in speaking with other NGBs and other CEOs of other sports, they felt that too. So we're not back to normal. We may never be back to normal, whatever normal was. But we're learning to live with it, and we're learning to cope with it better. And the financial side of things, look, we've got through to the finals. We've celebrated some great rugby league in the year. I know lots of people have been entertained by it. We will go on again next year and do the same. And I'm assuming by that point, we will have full return of crowds and everyone will feel a bit more comfortable.
Do you think COVID had an impact on the grand final attendance, Ralph? I know it was Catalan Dragons and there were some restrictions on travelling supporters from the south of France, etc. But it didn't look good on the TV, did it? A half-empty sort of Old Trafford.
No, it was a bit, for a great event. It wasn't where we wanted it to be. Of course, it wasn't. But nevertheless, yes, Catalan were in the final, which has an impact on it. And certainly, as I say, that return of crowds post-COVID, or it's not quite post-COVID, but that return of crowds, there is a definite delay, and we are not unique in that. As I say, I speak with other sports on a regular basis. They have felt the same as well. So, say next year, another few months on, everyone's got their head round life with COVID by that point, and I would hope we're back up to full strength.
And of course, one of the biggest impacts, Ralph, was on the World Cup and the postponement of the World Cup, with Australia and New Zealand understandably refusing to come to this country during the COVID situation. Was that a big surprise to you, or were you sort of expecting it and therefore, planning for the World Cup to be in 2022 anyway?
Well, it wasn't a big surprise because, I probably speak with my counterparts in the Southern Hemisphere a couple of times a week. So I certainly knew what their reticence was. I did my very best to encourage them over the line alongside my colleague John Dutton at the World Cup. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be in the end. Fully understand their reasons for it. I won't say that I wasn't particularly disappointed by it. I was. But nevertheless, as we do in Rugby League, we pick ourselves up, play the ball and get on with it again. So that's exactly what we've done.
You didn't seriously consider going ahead without Australia and New Zealand, did you?
I think it's fair to say we looked at every different scenario, everyone, and that was one of them, yes.
Okay. Now, Ralph, I know you've been in discussions with the Super League now for many months. Robert Elston left and gone on to pastors new. I think he's is he in charge of Stockport County Football Club now?
Yep, so here.
So you've been speaking with Ken Davey, who's the new chairman of Super League. Can you give the listeners a sort of status in terms of those negotiations? Is integration into the RFL a real possibility?
I wouldn't say it was integration into the RFL. We're certainly looking to realign the governing bodies. Absolutely, we are. Ken has been great, as has the Super League clubs in general. We all want the best thing. We want to put the sport into the best possible position to sell it. And when I say sell it, I mean, of course, commercially, to broadcasters, to crowds as well, in order that we maximise what we know we can do. And all talks have been very positive. They're not, they're not straightforward. They are complex. There are a lot of complicated agreements that exist between the two organisations, but there's a real will at this moment in time throughout the game, which is good to be working with at this moment in time. So thank you to all of those people that are helping with that.
And I know one of the issues regarding that, Ralph, is the actual funding that you get from TV and Sky Sports in particular. I believe that the funding negotiations were very difficult, and as a result, has there been a reduction in the money that's coming into Rugby League from TV?
I don't think there's any secret that there has been a reduction. And I say the pandemic's hit a particularly difficult time. All the messaging that we've had sort of from broadcasters, from government and the rest are kind of rationalise, realign and go forward. That's not a done deal. It's I say they are sensitive negotiations, but hopefully we'll get to the right place on that. And I think we've got some really exciting opportunities in the future. Yeah, there are some things working in the background that I think are going to put us on a definite upward trajectory.
I think one of the positives that I've understood recently, Ralph, is that Premier Sports are getting involved, and aren't they going to televise the Championship? Yeah,
Championship, a bit of League One, some women's and wheelchair rugby league as well. They are a great partner. Mickey O'Rourke, we went over to Dublin to see Mickey. And he's been with us before. He knows the sport. Him and his colleague Richard Webb know us very well indeed. They're excited about us. I think they'll take great care of us, and they'll really look to project us in the best possible light. So that's a good partnership going forward. It was a great one to close off, and I know there's lots of Championship and League One lovers out there that will be really benefit from those broadcasts.
Yeah, it'd be good to see Barrow on TV, Ralph.
Yes, I'm swearing no allegiance here at all, of course, but 3 Cumbrian clubs in the Championship certainly will produce some great derbies.
Now, terrestrial TV, that's always been subject of discussion as well. I know the Challenge Cup is shown on there, but is there any possibilities of ever selling the game to terrestrial TV and get more exposure?
Well, it's always about striking the right balance. Pay-per-view is a part of life now, as it was, and Sky have been brilliant broadcast partners for a long time. Challenge Cup does give us something different. I know the BBC particularly, it's a listed event. I know the BBC particularly like it because it gives them a story from start to finish, and I know that's important to them. But you'll have seen some of the initiatives in other sports, so some dual casts on different events. I think those are all possibles going forwards. And of course, we've got Our League, which is the RFL platform, which will be showing plenty of live games and throughout the division. So there's plenty of opportunities for people to come and watch us.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, Ralph. Our League, I do enjoy watching it. It's very good production. Is that going to continue in the future, or was it just for COVID?
No, absolutely not. It was something we embarked upon about 4 years ago. We've gently built it up since then. We have over 200,000 members in there now. It's a really important part of our armoury, broadcast armoury, but commercial armoury as well. We have, it isn't just about screening games. There's plenty of other things on there as well. But nevertheless, it's just really built up strongly. And you say the production's great. We can have a bit of fun with it. We can try different broadcasters. We can bring some kind of new blood into the sport as well. I think some of those have been really, really excellent. And I know they'll go on and help in other broadcasts on the back of that. So we're really proud of it. And when we speak to other sports, it was completely groundbreaking. I mean, effectively, we've become a broadcaster now. And that's it was probably a 4-year project from start to this point, and say 200,000 members. Very proud of it, and looking to put somewhere between another 75 to 100,000 on this season with the World Cup as well, and that makes it very valuable commercially.
Yeah. Can you ever see it being a subscription channel, a bit like I follow on the football, Ralph? I mean, when I want to watch Barra football, I have to pay £10.
Yeah, I think there'll always be a free point of entry, but nevertheless, you know, maybe in the future as it evolves, it's got that possibility about it. Maybe for premium events. I know we did put a small charge on England games for the last round. So look, it's something we've built, and we're very proud of, and we can play about with it in all sorts of ways. So it's got a big future with us, whatever happens.
Now, in terms of sponsorship, I believe that Betfred are on board again for a number of seasons. Is there any other sponsors out there sort of looking to get involved in the product?
We're speaking to some really good names. They are, you know, the prospect of aligning is certainly important to several of them. The benefit of being able to go in and sit in front of somebody and say, you know, we can give you a bit of England, we can give you a bit of Super League, we can give you a bit of Ulverston under nines, you know, community rugby league as well. We can put some wheelchair rugby league. We can do all of that in the same, you know, from the same basket. You know, that's really, really powerful. Lots of organisations are aware of what we're about at this moment in time and what we're trying to achieve. And I know that it will bring added commercial interest into the sport. I'm absolutely positive on it.
Now, one of the concerning aspects that's been announced recently, Ralph, is the reduction in funding, particularly for those teams in sort of League One. I believe what they're getting, 16 grand, where they used to get 65. Is that correct?
I'm not going to go over the figures specifically, but yeah, there's a reduction in funding for League One, yes.
Does that give you any concerns for some of the sustainability of some of the teams?
No, I don't think so. You know, nobody wants to have the money cut. Absolutely not. But you've just spoke earlier about the reduced broadcast monies, and you know that has to manifest itself in one way or another. We run something in Championship League One called the Return on Investment Scheme, which is so there's a base funding, you know, which you've just described, but nevertheless there's the ability to earn more funding dependent upon what you contribute back into the game. So if you contribute big viewing numbers or big attendances, or you know, Our League numbers as well, all those have an ability to take you up on funding. So what we're trying to do is affect behaviours so people drive the sport forward and are rewarded for it. So yes, there is a cut in the base. There is, not ideal, but as I say, if there's a reduction in broadcast all around, then that has to work its way out one way or another. We've spoken at length with the clubs about the rationales, and we've worked with them in order to develop the central distribution schemes. And everybody's on board for next season. There was no clubs at all saying they were in any danger, and everyone will just cut the cross and we'll go forward. Like the rest of the game is, like the RFL has done as well considerably, and the Super League clubs have as well. You know, this is the pandemic has a significant impact on us all, not just in rugby league. We have to face up to that. We don't have to back away from it. We have to take on the challenges we've got, and we have to go forward. And that's exactly what we've done. And as I say, there are some really, really positive stories simmering in the background, which will come to the fore in the not too distant future.
Now, one of the things that's been a little bit controversial only recently as well, Ralph, is the situation regarding Ottawa and the fact that the guy who owned them, I think is Eric Perez, who used to be involved in Toronto Wolfpack, they're relocating to Newlyn in Cornwall. I mean, yes. A lot of supporters are saying, what's going on?
Well, first of all, Ottawa bought a member of the RFL. They bought Hemel Stags at the time. More than entitled to do that. And it isn't Eric, it's actually the Ottawa Sports and Social Group, which are a very powerful sporting consortium in Ottawa, which own all the other professional clubs, sporting clubs in Ottawa as well. So these are big people that have a very impressive organisation behind them. They know what professional sport's all around. The pandemic strikes, and they did that on the back of the success of Toronto as well. They could see Toronto were getting 10,000 people through the gates, which they absolutely were. And they thought, well, we'd like a piece of that. We went to the clubs and we asked them what they thought, and they were all in favour. I think it was probably one or two that may have abstained on that vote, but there was a huge majority in favour of all this happening. The next thing that happened, of course, is that the pandemic strikes and Ottawa lose the first season completely because there was no championship in League One Rugby League, and then and the second season they did the honourable thing, I think, and they stepped out because they could see how complicated it would be with the pandemic involved. These people at Ottawa have been excellent. They paid up all the players that they had on roster, and they let them go. There's no complaints about the way anybody was treated. They've acted very, very honourably indeed. And then in looking at the landscape going forward and working with us as well, they've agreed to relocate. They've already sunk a great deal of money into this proposition, and they agreed to relocate back to the UK. Now, when they get to the UK, which is helpful for us all, I think, and they've had some of their aspirations worn away by the pandemic. When they get to the UK, then they've got to put their business where they think it's going to be the most successful place to position it. And I know for a fact they trawled from Carlisle to Cornwall and everything in between. And in the end, this was the proposition they came up with. It's not for the RFL to tell them where they should put their business, because it's their business and they should run it the way they think it's going to be successful. I know they've got some investment down there and they've got some buy-in from clubs down there as well. So they've got some infrastructure. It's where they've chosen to put their business, and they have relocated to UK. So that's the story. But it was all done with the support of the clubs in the first instance on 2 or 3 different occasions. So that's what brought us to this. It's yet another knock-on effect of the pandemic. And I think you can look at things positively or negatively. But what I would say is those people in Ottawa have been incredibly honourable throughout all this. And I think all of the players and coaching staff and support staff that have been in contact with them would tell you the same story. So good luck to them. So
how does that benefit the potential supporters in Ottawa?
It doesn't, is the answer to that. I say that's another kind of magnanimous move by this club. They still retain a significant interest in the club, the consortium, but they have agreed to locate it in the UK. So it doesn't, is the answer to that. And again, it's something the pandemic has put a line through, but, we're all living to work and working ways now.
Well, Cornwall's almost an independent country anyway, Ralph, isn't it?
Yeah, that comment was made, actually. That's absolutely.
Is it the black flag, is it?
I'm assuming Barrow going down in a submarine. That's why I thought they'd get there.
And a lot of supporters have been saying it's easier to get to Canada than it is Cornwall. So.
Yeah, well, there was plenty of the clubs, clearly, who were very uncomfortable with going to Ottawa, despite the fact Ottawa absolutely had the right by that point to play in Ottawa because of all the hoops that I've just spoken about. But nevertheless, Cornwall it is. So I know you can easily make that argument. I get that. And you can be a glass is half full or glass is half empty person. I think these people have been good. That's what I'd say. And I think everyone that's come into contact would say so. And if that's where they choose to locate their business, then good luck to them. I hope they're successful.
So are Ottawa, Toronto, are they going to sort of develop a Canadian rugby league? Is that the future?
Well, that was very close to happening. You may have seen that, a North American league. And again, something that the pandemic has put a line through at this moment in time, just because all activity kind of closed down. It was too much to take on in this kind of landscape. We do have calls on a fairly regular basis from North America about people interested in those things. I think everyone's got to regroup, haven't they, after this pandemic, see where they go. But look, there is definite interest in North America. It would not surprise me at all if that North American league came into being at some point.
Now, there's been a change of brand as well, with Coventry Bears now becoming the Midlands Hurricanes. I mean, What's all that about? Well,
I thought Coventry had a great season last year after having many tough seasons, and largely based on local players as well. Alan Robinson's done a great job there in bringing it to where it is. And we know they've done some tough years down there. Of course they have. But nevertheless, one or two things came together for them. In amongst all that, they attracted some additional investment, which is great for the sport. You know, we want to see our clubs attract investment and become attractive. They've done that. So there's a co-ownership that will emerge there. And on the back of that, the rebranding, as you say, and a bit of a relaunch to take it to another level. And again, a story that's got plenty of potential, that one. I know there's one or two announcements yet to come, which I can't announce ahead of them, but it's got a future. And after some tough years, it's found its feet. And I say largely based on local players as well, which is fantastic.
Now, with Barrow getting promoted to the Championship, Ralph, I was looking forward to getting in the top 6 and getting in Super League 2. But the RFL have now delayed that and put it back a year. Why have you done that?
Well, there's nothing guaranteed yet. There's no confirmations on that. We are speaking with experts in the industry at this moment in time about where we might go going forward. There's a huge amount of work going on. So that isn't a slam dunk yet. We'll hopefully make some announcements alongside our Super League colleagues in early December. But what it is it's all about shaping the sport for the future and having a really evidence-based model that takes us to the right place that everybody can support. Because we've all got opinions on what things should look like, and we've just, alongside some experts within the industry, we're just taking a breath to make sure we make the right move at the right time. And so those moves and those futures that I've described there'll be some clarification over those before Christmas.
I think also, Ralph, the fact that
we've got to get it right is the key to that.
That Toulouse, who have been promoted, that should add a new dynamic to Super League now with a French derby and other clubs having to travel to Toulouse. They're not going to be looking forward to that, are they?
No. Well, I don't think. The spectators will look forward to going to Toulouse. They'll get a warm welcome on the pitch as well. I thought they played some absolutely outstanding rugby league last year, Toulouse. Everybody got to see exactly what they could offer. Look, it will be the Super League is a very demanding competition, a very, very demanding competition. You've seen League go up at short notice, and with a difficult start. But nevertheless, it just demonstrates what that jump is. It's a tough competition. Toulouse will find it tough, and regardless of, each club has to travel over there once. Toulouse has to travel every other week, as they have done throughout the kind of rise and rise. It's always tougher for the French teams than it is for the English teams. The English teams go once, as I say, but nevertheless, they've found the mark this year. They've put a really strong spear in the ground and said, we're good enough to do it, so let's have a go. So it will bring something different. Toulouse is very different to Catalan. In fact, Catalan wouldn't actually profess to being French most of the time. They would tell you they're Catalan. Toulouse is very French. So it all brings a bit of extra colour and vibrancy to the sport, and flair. Certainly, the way that both of those teams have played this year is with a great deal of flair.
Now, obviously, I'm biased, Ralph, because I'm a Barrow supporter, but I don't know. I watch Super League now, and it's a bit. I don't know. I don't know what the right word is. A bit predictable, a bit tactical. I watch a Championship game, and it's like, whoa, Toulouse 70 points, and I don't know. It just seems more exciting to me. But
yeah, look, I understand what you say. I love watching Championship and League One Rugby League. I absolutely love it. But the stakes are high at Super League. It's a lot more technical. We do work hard at just changing the rules slightly in order that the game opens up, and we have a laws committee which is designed to produce entertainment, safety and integrity. And we look every year at the rules and how we might open the game up. Of course, as soon as you interpret the rules, coaches take the rule book, tear it apart and work out the very best way they can take advantage of it. And that's why the game's got to keep evolving, really, because some coaches will play quite conservatively and some get some sets of rules. So it's an evolution. There's still some incredible games of Super League last year. There were games that took my breath away last year. It was astonishing rugby league at times. And you'll see it again next year. So it's all different, Super League to Championship to League One. It's all very different. And I absolutely thrive on every element of it.
With this situation evolving, Ralph, with regards to health and safety in the game and all that sort of thing, is there anything more perhaps that the RFL can look into? I mean, I know the game's stopped now and people are looked at for concussion and they spend time off the pitch. Is this of a concern to the RFL moving forward?
Well, we've got some pretty robust processes in place. We have the Laws Committee, which I've mentioned, that has representation for medical staff on every committee. We have our clinical advisory group, which feed into that, and are also a subgroup of the board. And I say, whenever we sit in a room and talk about laws, we have to talk about the safety element of those laws, and whether that be height of tackling, which is something you may be referring to, or whether it be the amount of time players have to work on pitches, as we look at dead ball time a lot. We look at anything that can impact on player welfare. So these processes are robust, and the medics sit alongside us at every step. So we don't take anything without their advice feeding into the eventual decision. And ultimately, the board then makes a decision on what the next change will be.
Now, another thing that I think the RFL needs to be applauded for, Ralph, is the emergence of the ladies' game, and the fact that the ladies' game is really growing fantastically well. I know Salford and OKR are putting teams together, and it's absolutely terrific that Barrow have been invited to play in Super League. So how do you see the women's game going in the future? Is there more television or?
Yes, I mean, certainly all the broadcasters that we deal with want to put the women's game on the TV. Clearly, the BBC and Sky both gave us semi-finals and finals last year of those competitions. Great coverage and great viewing figures as well for all of them, with great viewing figures, and for the England internationals. So really pleased with that. I know Premier Sport certainly want to broadcast them as well. You know, this women's sport's on an upward trajectory anyway, absolutely right. I think we've done some, if I'm honest, I think we've done some good things, the sport has, which has taken advantage of that. I know probably the best statistic that you'll hear, when we closed the community down in 2020, to the moment we opened it up again in 2021, so in that sort of 14-month period, whatever it was, so of non-activity, we had a 70% increase in women's teams registered when they re-registered. That's with no activity other than what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. We're giving them good profile. You know, we use some great advocates, some great ambassadors in the women's game. Some, you know, like people like Jodie Cunningham and Lois and others that young girls would aspire to be. You know, they would look at those people and think, they look good, they sound good, they're really athletic, they're incredibly skillful. I would want to be that person. And I think that's really, you know, the way we've used ambassadors has been key in all this. We've certainly done it. We've brought them into the England Performance Unit, so they're getting the very best of coaching at that level. And we're taking it, you know, the World Cup incredibly seriously as far as they're concerned. So we've put them on big stages. So Challenge Cup semi-finals, big stadiums for them as well, deliberately. So we're working very hard to take them on this journey, and they're responding fantastically well. And the response to that, again, is people wanting to get involved. So it's, you know, the sky is the limit for that element of our game at this moment in time.
Now, the only question on that, Ralph, is that I know that there's like two tiers within the Super League in the women's game, and probably quite rightly so, because the difference between the two tiers is quite significant. But does that mean that the likes of Barrow, who are in the second six, are they only going to play 10 matches? Or it doesn't seem a lot to me.
No, there'll be more in the playing calendar than that. But the division is, as you've just described, we do take on, it comes back to the Laws Committee, really. We take on all of those issues, player safety being one, certainly integrity of competition being another, entertainment being another. We want evenly matched games where the outcome is uncertain. That's what we all want in sport, isn't it? So the divisions are the way the divisions are. However, there will be other features to that calendar which will make it very interesting indeed quite soon. Yeah.
And in the Challenge Cup, will we all be sort of dumped in together so we can beat St Helens at Craven Park?
Challenge Cup is Challenge Cup. It's just what it is. So yes, you can beat St Helens at Craven Park. Absolutely.
No, I was just saying to Steve Neal, they've done a great job there. I'm not just saying that because I'm biased, but the way they've integrated the ladies team into the club, everybody appreciates that. And wouldn't it be great for Barrow to play Bradford as a sort of precursor to the Barrow-Bradford Championship game on a Sunday afternoon? You'll have to come along and watch that one.
That sort of thing is absolutely where we'd want it to go. You know, we've told clubs we'd like them to put double headers on. You know, I know we're talking to this audience anyway, but Steve Neal and his board have done an outstanding job at Barrow, not just on the women's side of things, across that club. And I was at a game. Well, I saw you at a game.
Yeah, you did.
You know, the ground looks great. You know, everything they do is very commercial. They've got real energy about them. And you know, we had a Championship League One meeting last week, and Steve presented. We got a couple of clubs to present some of the ways they're driving forward, and Steve presented on certain elements of the business and what they'd done to move it forward. And just because, you know, we can stand in front of clubs and say you must do this and you must do that, but it's often more powerful when a club stands up and says we did this and this is the outcome we got from it, because everyone sees that it's achievable. And you know, Steve presented very strongly on some really key elements of the business.
So, last question, Ralph. There's been a lot of concern recently about the future of the game because of various factors. What would you say to the supporters of this fantastic game? What does the future hold for rugby, and is it really sustainable, and is it going to grow in the way that we all want it to?
Oh, I've got, you know, having weathered a real storm, there's no two ways about it. And that storm was coming, not just in terms of pandemic, in lots of other ways as well. But this sport has stuck together. It's delivered to its communities in a way that probably we could never have even envisaged at the time. It's coming together. I think it's realigning, as I say, as a sport. And I think that will be very powerful. It's not done yet, but, you know, Super League and all of those people sitting around the table, Championship League One, they're all very focused at this moment in time. Having weathered this storm and knowing some of the things that I know are coming down the pipeline in the not too distant future, we've got some really exciting times. After doing it tough, we've got some exciting times ahead, and it's there have definitely been low times in all that. There absolutely has, but I can definitely see a future now. Something that everyone will smile about.
Okay then, Ralph. Well, I know it's not an easy job, mate, and thanks very much for coming on Cando FM, and I hope to see you at Craven Park sometime next season.
You almost certainly will do. No problem, Tony.
Thank you very much, Ralph. All the best.
Take it easy.